We were robbed. Everyone who had money on the New Orleans Saints was robbed by the NFL. It was highway robbery of the worst kind, the kind where you had done absolutely nothing wrong, where all you had done was be on the right side of history, and then your victory was yanked right away from your hands. It's inexcusable. It's unforgettable. It is thoroughly inexplicable. I remain angry on this outcome. There is no way to justify the lack of throwing the flag. I am going to go to my grave remembering this outcome. Here's the truth. Here is the truth. The Saints were robbed. I'm going to believe it forever. That is the worst call in the history of the NFL. There's no way to justify missing that call. It was clear pass interference. It was clear helmet to helmet on a defenseless receiver. There wasn't just one flag there. There was two. And there was no doubt that if the right call had been made, then there would have been justice in this world. The Saints would have kneeled 3 times, kicked a field goal. They would be into the Super Bowl. Now, some people out there are like, oh, the only reason you care is because you lost $30,000 on this game. I got to tell you, first of all, my wife was rooting for me to lose the bet. All right, you want to talk about a kick in the teeth? When I lost this bet, my wife was out there cheering for me to lose the bet because she said it meant that I couldn't complain about all the money she spends now. I swear to God, this is what you have to look forward to if you get married and one day you're rich. Your wife will root for you to lose money so you can't complain about her exorbitant spending on things that we don't need. That's what you have to look forward to. Been married, whatever the math is, 15 years, was poor for many of those years. Now I'm rich, and then your wife will start to root for you to lose. This is what happens when you become a rich man, and every now and then you ask your wife how she can spend so much money, and then you lose $30,000 or thereabouts on a sporting event where you're completely in the right. Let's consider this for a minute. The Saints never trailed in this game until the motherfucker kicked a 57-yard field goal in overtime. Can we think about this for a minute? The Rams kicker, they can't make field goals anywhere. People miss extra points all the time. And this motherfucker kicked a field goal 57 yards on the road to send his team to the Super Bowl. You want to talk about a bad beat. The only time the Saints were losing the entire game was when this guy stepped up and drilled a 57-yard field goal. It's unbelievable. It's the longest kick ever made to send somebody to the Super Bowl. I feel like it's getting completely overlooked as if it was like a 20-yard field goal this guy made. He made a 57-yard field goal on the road to put his team into the Super Bowl after also making a 48-yard field goal. And by the way, I don't know what happened, but if you question whether God was rooting against me, did you watch the 48-yard field goal? The ball started to go left, and then inexplicably it came back started to go right, and then inexplicably it came back to the left. Did anybody notice that? He kicked it, and it looked like the ball was headed out of the uprights, right? It was bearing to the right, and then somehow, like 80% of the way there, it suddenly came back. How is that possible? How is it possible that this kicker could kick it aiming right, and then like 80% of the way there, it suddenly draws back to the left to go through the uprights? I want somebody to explain the physics on that to me. How is that possible? I understand if you draw it from the kick and you start it off far right and then it comes back in late, but it's moving that direction the whole time. How does it go right and then come back left? What kind of insane spin is it possible to kick it so that halfway it starts to go right and then it comes back in on the left? It doesn't make any sense to me at all. I think what happened was God decided to make that kick be good because he hates me. I'm going to go to my grave believing this. All right. Also, this official. Some people said I was being too hard on him. I said he should be guillotined in the French Quarter for all the Saints fans to stand around and cheer while his head was chopped off. Might have been a little bit excessive there. I actually would like for him to be drawn and quartered so that he has more time to be in pain before he dies. I want 4 offensive linemen for the Saints to get on motorcycles, each of them with a different limb, and I want them to start driving away until each of his arms and each of his legs is ripped off. And then after that happens, I want him to then be carried to the guillotine, sit there bleeding for a while, and then right before he dies, I want his head to be chopped off. I think that is a fair punishment for what is an egregious error. People keep coming to me and saying, oh, you're being too rough on this guy. I think he needs to pay, all right? Secondly, let me get into some larger issues with the NFL here. This is a flagrant issue that I've actually been arguing needs to be taken advantage of or looked into for years. I have been saying for a long time, and I want you to listen closely on this because so many of you are so fucking dumb you're not going to be able to follow me otherwise. Everything is a judgment call, all right? I'm so sick of stupid people saying, well, you can't review a judgment call. Everything that an official decides is a judgment call. Whether there is 2 feet down in the end zone is a judgment call. Whether or not a quarterback fumbled or threw a pass is a judgment call. All right? There are correct and incorrect judgment calls. Throwing a flag to begin with is a judgment call. The only reason we pay officials is for their judgment. All right? That is why they are being paid. They are being paid for their judgment. That is the only reason they receive paychecks. So when their judgment is wrong, it should be reviewable. I've been on this for years. This is nonsensical that a call that's as big as whether or not there is pass interference is not reviewable, but a call as inconsequential as whether or not somebody's foot was in bounds or not on a 3-yard out route is reviewable, right? What should be reviewable are material plays that impact the overall outcome of the game. They should all be reviewable. Otherwise, why do we have instant replay at all? My solution here is simple. Make some judgment calls reviewable. You might not even need to actually change the existing NFL rules. Just allow coaches to challenge when they believe that a clear error of judgment has been made. In this situation, Sean Payton would have been able to throw his flag. Most challenge flags don't even get thrown over the course of the season. There aren't that many things that are actually being challenged because they automatically review all turnovers and all scoring plays. Why would you allow a review on a 2-yard out route to see whether or not a guy gets 2 feet in or catches the ball, but you wouldn't review a seismic play that has to do with whether or not a first down was garnered or not? It's easy. This is easy. This replay review would have taken like 10 seconds. And by the way, has the NFL officially issued a response yet? Because this is getting to be ridiculous that they haven't officially issued a response. I know Sean McVay said he talked to Al Riveron, and Riveron said, yeah, I'm sorry, we blew it. We got it wrong on 2 different play calls. But I don't know that we've officially gotten any result at all of the NFL admitting officially that they are wrong. Here's the other thing. Officials should get fired when they blow calls like this. Everybody has to answer for their job performance. If I messed up as bad as this official did, I would probably get fired. I really would. I think I would get fired off my radio show if I made an equivalent error that was as seismic in nature in my job as what that official did. Here's the other thing. When in doubt, throw the flag. He could have thrown the flag and argued, you know what, I thought the ball got tipped. And then everybody else could have gone back and looked, and because it's reviewable whether or not the ball was tipped for some reason. You can review whether the ball was tipped or not. All the officials would have gotten together and they would have said, my God, that was a bad pass interference penalty. We got to make sure. We just saw it on the Jumbotron. We'll just go ahead and say the ball wasn't tipped, so the pass interference call stands. I mean, I just think, and then you could get together, and if everybody agreed that you'd made a horrible call, they could pick the flag up, right? I don't think it makes any sense there. Now, let me say this. A lot of people want to say, well, what about this play? Or what about that play that they got wrong? It's true that there are multiple errors throughout the course of any game. There's no doubt at all about that. But this was the most consequential by far because it actually determined the outcome of the game. That's the truth, okay? So if you are unable to understand that, then I'm sorry. People are like, oh, what about when Jared Goff got his helmet grabbed? It's incidental contact, all right? That sometimes gets called. It sometimes does not. Typically, you only want to call a helmet, like a grab on the helmet, if the face mask is used to make a tackle, right? If there's some competitive advantage gained by it, not merely your hand happens to graze across the face mask, all right? My only complaint with the Saints is this. Sean Payton, once the pass was completed to the 13-yard line, all he had to do was run the football and make the Rams take the rest of the timeouts. I am very frustrated that Sean Payton made the decision he did at that point in time to not just run the football on first down from the 13, take a timeout there, force the Rams to take a timeout, run it on second down, force them to take another timeout, run it on third down, there's like 40 seconds left, and then you kick the extra point, and there's only 40 seconds left. This is my bigger issue with these guys who are making like $7 or $8 million a year. If I, sitting in my house, immediately can tell you what the smart decision to make from a game management perspective, how can you and no one on your staff make that decision with all of the brains that are talking to you in real time there? Go check my Twitter feed. The minute this pass was completed, I said, all right, run the ball 3 times. Ideal situation, you would get a first down, okay? And then you'd be able to take a knee and the Rams would never get the ball back. But if you run it 3 times, then worst case scenario, then you force them to take a timeout with like 40 seconds to go. They get the ball back. They use their last 2 timeouts. You kick the field goal, and then Jared Goff has to go down the field and get a tie field goal with 40 seconds left, which, honestly, given the fact that Zuerlein was knocking field goals through from 57 yards, he might have hit it from 80 yards out. Who knows? That kick would have been good from 70. It was unbelievable, but you still should have made them use the timeouts, right? On top of that, all right, this is my bigger issue with coaching in the NFL in general, making the smart decision that actually leads to your team having the best chance to actually get a victory. I thought that was the poor decision that Sean Payton made. Having said that, it shouldn't have mattered because on 3rd and 10, he got interfered with 100 out of 100 times. That call should be made, and if it were made, then the Saints would have taken 3 knees, they would have kicked a field goal, and they would be in Atlanta getting ready to prepare for the game against the Patriots. Now, if I'm a Chiefs fan, on the other side of the question, on the other side of the equation, if I am a Chiefs fan, I'm happy with how my team came back after a disastrous first half where the Patriots dominated them and they got down 14-0. They came back, they had the lead 28-24. I am still upset at Dee Ford for lining up offsides. The Patriots, much of their success is simply predicated on waiting for teams that are dumber than them to screw up. Okay? That is what much of the Patriots' success, as much as you want to talk about how good Brady and Belichick are, a lot of their success is just not screwing up. They wait for other teams to make mistakes. The Chiefs had made a play there. They had picked off Tom Brady for the 3rd time. That game was over. And then what happened? Dee Ford had lined up offsides. It was utterly stupid of him to line up offsides. It's literally one of the first things you learn in any sport, how to stay on sides. And you know what? If he had jumped off sides because he was trying to make a play, I'd even defend that somewhat because that's an error of aggression. Tom Brady's good at giving voice inflections. This guy's trying to get to the quarterback and make a play. If you jump off sides, it's a dumb play, okay? But If you jump off sides and you jump off sides because you're trying to be more aggressive, I forgive that. Simply lining up so that you're off sides to allow that flag to be thrown at that point in time is, to me, an indefensible error. And frankly, it's the kind of mistake the Patriots don't make. A big part of their coaching and their success overall is they just don't screw up. I mean, I want to say this. How many false starts did the Patriots offensive line have in that crazy-ass loud Arrowhead Stadium? Did they even false start once? As loud as it was, think about how amazing their communication had to be. They barely got Tom Brady hit in the entire game on the road with a very good pass rush from the Chiefs. And you're trying to get the snap count right and everything else. They almost didn't even allow Tom Brady to be hit, either against the Chargers or against what was a very good defensive front of the Chiefs. Their communication was incredible. It was extraordinary, all right? The other thing that you saw, and I'm glad he's in the booth because he's so good. The other thing you saw, so let me take a step back. So the Chiefs would be in the Super Bowl right now if, simply put, they hadn't lined up offsides. Now, I love Patrick Mahomes and the throws he can make, and I think his future is incredibly bright. But remember and think about what we would have said about Dan Marino all the way back in 1984 when he went to the Super Bowl and lost. Everybody would have lined up the next day and said, yes, Dan Marino lost, but he's going to win multiple Super Bowls. It's hard to get to the Super Bowl, guys. It is really hard to get to the Super Bowl, and it's even harder to win one. And so, as a result, while I think Patrick Mahomes is going to win a Super Bowl at some point, and I think Andy Reid will too, I'm not 100% convinced it's going to happen because we could have a Dan Marino situation where you have a great quarterback who posts huge numbers and things just never break his way again. And he never gets that opportunity to actually win a Super Bowl. Or we could have, I hate to say it, an Alex Smith type situation where Patrick Mahomes gets a devastating injury and it takes him a long time to come back from that injury. A lot of people out there who are Chiefs fans are convincing themselves today, oh, it stinks to lose this game, but we'll be back there again. I'm not 100% sure you will. It's hard to get to the AFC Championship. It's hard to get to the NFC Championship. There's a lot of good young quarterbacks in this league. There's a lot of good young quarterbacks coming in the years ahead. When you get the opportunity, you have to take advantage of it, period. And I'm sure that Patrick Mahomes will get better as a quarterback, but I also think that teams are going to get better at defending him. Tyreek Hill is going to eventually get slower. He's going to lose that weapon. Travis Kelce may not be as good next year. Guys can go from great to fairly average pretty quickly. Look at what's happened with Gronk, who basically is a shell of his former self, notwithstanding the fact that he made 2 huge plays on 3rd down, which I think you have to give Tom Brady credit for. I also think you have to give a lot of credit to Tony Romo. Tony Romo's contract with CBS is coming up at the end of next season. This guy is already better at calling games than anybody is at calling games in all of sports, and he's only done it for 2 years. Okay? That is phenomenal for Tony Romo, how good he is at calling the game. I also think he puts you in the situation, describes exactly what's going on, and also takes you into the brains of the smartest quarterbacks that play on the field. If you think playing quarterback is simple, what you would see is you have to process a massive amount of information in real time. Your brain has to react, and you have to make the right decisions. There aren't very many guys who can do it, right? And right now, Brady calls an unbelievable game. The guy gets rid of the ball so fast, he hardly gets touched. Peyton Manning called unbelievable games. Tony Romo obviously saw the field well. He just never had the same caliber of success as those other guys. Romo is going to be, I think, the next John Madden. I also think it would not stun me if somebody decided to bring Tony Romo in as a head coach. If you are watching Tony Romo call the game and how well he explains the field and explains what's going on, do you not think that he would be an incredible coach for a young quarterback? I mean, can you imagine how good he would be in the room with a young quarterback breaking down what he's seeing on film every single play to get a young quarterback ready? There are a lot of guys you bring in and you have no idea how good they're actually going to be at the coaching position. I can see Romo making a lot of sense as a head coach. In fact, if you were a Dallas Cowboy fan right now, would you rather have Jason Garrett and who's he bringing in now, John Kitna, as your head coach of the Dallas Cowboys right now? Or would you rather have Tony Romo in there working with Dak every day? I bet the majority of Dallas Cowboy fans would rather have Romo. I think the majority of Dallas Cowboy fans would. And I think he could make a tremendous difference. I think it's possible that somebody is going to go right into the booth and hire him away for like a $10 million a year coaching job. And if you think that's crazy, John Lynch got hired as the GM of the San Francisco 49ers directly out of the booth for Fox. I know he's already coached, but John Gruden got hired for $10 million a year out of the box. One of the best things you can do is work in media because it keeps you at the top of the game when guys are thinking about whether or not to hire you. Romo is, I think, already. Can you name somebody who's better at calling games? Because I can't. Can you name a better analyst than Tony Romo? I'm even curious who you guys would name as the next best guy. I do think he'll get $10 million to call the game. I think he'll get $10 million to call the game. It doesn't take very much. If you think Tony Romo is adding a small scintilla of viewers, they just had the highest rated NFC championship game in 7 years. If you think 6% of that is Tony Romo, you're spending $1 billion a year on the NFL already. Another $10 million for the best analyst out there at all, I think is a no-brainer. I think it is a no-brainer. Somebody's out there worked up about whether he's going to make $10 million. John Madden used to make $10 million 20-some-odd years ago. All right? And if Romo's every bit as good, then I don't think that's ridiculous. Colin Cowherd makes $10 million a year. All right? One day, I'm going to make $10 million a year. If you look at the trajectory of where sports media salaries are going, look at that sweat. That's how fired up I am. If you look at the trajectory of where sports media salaries are going, Stephen A. Smith's going to make $10 million a year. Granted, those guys do daily shows, but their audience is much smaller. And look, if you're at the top of your craft, $10 million is very doable. So I don't think that's a ridiculous proposition at all. Stephen A. makes $4 million a year right now. He wants to be a $10 million a year guy. Signed a contract that wasn't that high, 6-year, $24 million deal. Got a couple of years left on his deal, but he wants $10 million a year. Mike Greenberg makes $7 million a year. Like I said, Cowherd's getting close to 10. Skip Bayless makes 7. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that are going to be in the $10 million range in the next few years. I plan at some point in time to be able to be there too. So that's why I'm pretty comfortable that things are going well, even though I lost $30,000 on the game most recently. All right, final thoughts. Congratulations, the University of Tennessee Volunteers. #1 team in the country. It's the only thing keeping me sane today after awful bad beats in particularly the Saints game, but also because of Dee Ford, a bad beat in the Chiefs game as well. Tennessee is the #1 basketball team in the nation. I think they have a chance to go out and win the national championship. I love everything that Rick Barnes has done. Remember 4 years ago when Konzo Martin left for Cal and all those sports media people said, oh, Tennessee basketball is dead. There's no way they're going to be able to ever get back to the level they're at right now. And then boom, out of nowhere, Tennessee basketball back #1 overall in the nation. I'm going to go watch them on Wednesday at Vanderbilt. Last time Tennessee was #1 in the nation, I also went to go watch them at Vanderbilt. It's only the second time they've been #1 in the nation. They lost to Vanderbilt and ended up in a tough spot there because they were playing against a really good Vanderbilt team. I've seen Tennessee lose a lot of games at Memorial Gym, so I'm not 100% confident. But I don't believe that Vanderbilt is very good. They haven't won an SEC game so far. I know it's a rivalry game, but Tennessee should be able to go out and win that game. I've already got my tickets. I think there'll be a huge contingent of Tennessee fans in there. I do think that a lot of Vanderbilt fans are just going to sit on their tickets. I think they're going to sit on their tickets because they don't want to sell to Tennessee fans. I've been looking at StubHub and SeatGeek and all the sites, and there aren't a lot of available tickets. I think that's because there are a lot of Vanderbilt fans who don't want to go to the game, but they also don't want to sell their seats to Tennessee fans. Some of you are really triggered. And who's going to pay you $10 million? Do you think about this for a minute. Do you think that I'm going to do 3 hours a day of daily radio? That I'm going to do an hour a day of daily television? That I'm going to continue to run a website that is dominant while doing these Periscope and Facebook shows? And that I'm not going to be able to get to 10 million? I'm doing 2.5 now. You don't think I'm going to be able to get to 10 million one day? I think you're wrong. Maybe you're right. But if I've gone from 0 to 2.5 before 40, I feel pretty good about my odds from going to 2.5 to 10 by the time I'm 50. So I think it's going to happen. Look, I'm working my ass off. There aren't very many people who are out there doing 3 hours a day of television. 3 hours a day of radio, an hour a day of television, another half hour on Periscope and Facebook, plus what I write. Come on. Think about the way the media works. Who's going to pay me? People, 10 million? People who are making 20 million off of me. Think about it. Come on. Just follow along on the flow chart here. I understand that a lot of you guys out there are mosquito dick thinkers. You worry about whether or not somebody is going to be successful because you're making $38,000 a year driving a Toyota Corolla, hoping to get a 2-bedroom apartment one day in a decent neighborhood. All right? If those are your dreams, middle management, one day you might make $60K, you need to go be watching somebody else. This is a helicopter dick show, and I'm a helicopter dick thinker. I ain't sitting around trying to make $38K and drive a Toyota Corolla and have a 2-bedroom apartment in a mediocre neighborhood in some faltering Midwestern city. There are a lot of people, that's their aspiration and their dream. More power to you. I'm a helicopter dick thinker. Mosquito dick thinkers, what you learn very quickly is they think of reasons why other people who are already insanely more successful than them are not going to become even more insanely successful. But let me just tell you this. If I told you right now that you were going to make 4 times as much money in 10 years as you make right now, would that sound ridiculous to you? If you are a helicopter dick, that should at least be your goal. All right? If you're a mosquito dick, you're like, oh, I'd take 40% more. In 10 years, I hope I can add a couple of $1,000s a year here and there. Think like a mosquito dick, and guess what? You're going to have a mosquito dick life. Think like a helicopter dick. You're going to be up on the bar twirling around your dick like a lasso, just throwing it out and grabbing whatever you want. All right? Think like a helicopter dick. It's a metaphor, not like a mosquito dick. All right? Got to tell you. Boom. I'm going to be and am loaded, and I'm going to continue to be loaded, and I'm going to continue to make a ton of money. All right? So think like a helicopter dick, not like a mosquito dick. All right? Be a cowboy. Ride off into the sunset with a big bag of cash strapped to your shoulder. Appreciate all of you, except for the $30,000 you lose when you happen to bet on the team that actually won but ended up losing. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. This has been OutKick the Show. If you think like a helicopter dick, share the show. If you think like a mosquito dick, create an anonymous account on Twitter and try and troll people who are a lot more successful than you in all your free time. I see you. Wink, wink, losers. Love you. My name is Clay Travis. This has been OutKick the Show. DBAP boys and girls, unless you need to SBAP. Share the show if you enjoy it. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be live 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to be live in about 45 minutes on FS1. Love all of you. Kisses from me to you. Saints got screwed. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. See y'all. Love you. Thank you. Facebook. See y'all.